Hello! I am here to address a couple things. So, in my last video, I mentioned an opinion I had about the company and the direction of the game. And I just want to say, that is my opinion. I acknowledge that it is in the minority and it may not be correct. But that was how I felt about the game. That is how I feel. That is, why I feel kind of distanced from it a bit. I kind of forgot that people do, actually take my opinion seriously. I had two excellent responses to the video that people messaged me, and I thought, I have a degree of sorts in game development, so I thought I might use some of that knowledge to explain how a game company making a tabletop licensed game might explain some of the decisions they make that may confuse us and frustrate us, to help us better understand what might be going on at WizKids sometimes, and why we might be giving them too hard of a time. Now, I'm not here to invalidate your feelings or your anger at the game sometimes, but we have to be civil. There are people who work for the game company in our fan clubs. So if you say something like, "Oh, I think the company's being so stupid," to them, it might sound like you're calling them stupid, and that is not okay. So, I thought I might play, devil's advocate and argue against some of my own opinions on the company here. So I want to explain a little about how this company, how game companies in general might work, and the struggles they have to deal with. The first thing you should know is that to fix any quality control issue that includes game balance, so the models don't look right, that requires a delay. And delays cost money. And to a licensed game, that can be, the death of your product line if it ends up costing too much money for you to produce. So anytime they go to fix any problem, it's going to cause a delay, and that's going to cost more money, and the product might become unprofitable for the investors. So let's start with a simple example here. The community wants, let's use green for this example. The community wants a new card. The developers want to make a Deep Space Nine pack, let's say. This is a hypothetical version of WizKids. I'm not saying this is actually how it works. They want to make this new card. So they create a new card. They then pass that card down to the testers, who say the card doesn't work. It's not fun. The developers then make a second version of the card. They pass it down to the testers. Same thing. Doesn't work, not fun. Each of these is a delay. Eventually they find something. They pass to the testers. The testers say, works. So then the developers go, okay, legal team, can we make this card? And the legal team says, I'm sorry, you can't. That requires paying residuals to a writer in an episode that the actual company doesn't want to have to do. Or, to use an actual example from the game, the Voyager doctor couldn't be named after his name in the books. They had to give him a generic name because the way Star Trek does licensing and such, they couldn't use his face on the card if it had the character's name from the books. I think that's what it was. I'm not quite sure. So now they've got a problem. The legal team says, hey, you can take this card and make it for Voyager instead. And the developers go, okay, we've got this new card. The playtesters like it. It's cool. It's for Voyager. So we'll save this for a future release. Boom. That is another delay. So let's look at our delays. We had 1, 2, 3, 4. We're on 4 delays right now for this product. For this hypothetical. For this hypothetical product. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, a year passes, they haven't released this product. The community has now come out with a new broken strategy. Broken strat. It's taken the tournaments by storm. Half the fandom loves it. Half the fandom hates it. There's this new strategy that is broken. The developers realize that their magic card here, if paired with this strategy, will be doom incarnate. So unfortunately, they have to go through and redo the card all over again. Only this time, finally the playtesters give them the okay. So it goes back and forth, back and forth. And how many delays? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like about 8 delays. Finally, they've got a winning card for a Voyager pack. A card that was supposed to come out in Deep Space Nine. But they've got this new winning card. So... oh, I forgot the advertising team. Herp derp. That's who I forgot. PR. PR. Public relations. We'll say that's advertisers, influencers, all that jazz. So now they're ready to release this new Voyager pack. Developers give the okay. Legal gives the okay. The finances, this is interesting. Finances, whether it's investors within the company or outside the company. If it's a big company, this is how it works, I'm assuming. Actually take this money and pay for the production line ahead of time. PR then, of course, says, hey, you guys want a pre-order. Now, pre-orders are interesting because they have a give and take to them. The sort of supposed guarantee of a pre-order is you get the product on time or early. And if there is a logistics breakdown, you get it anyway, and the delays go to the stores as opposed to the pre-orders. Logistics breakdown guarantee, we'll say. This is sort of the unwritten agreement of how pre-orders work. Now, this has happened. Logistics, partway through the shipping process, realizes we've got a problem here. We can only ship 50% of our product. Now, they could hold back the entire shipment to make sure all the pre-orders get to the people who pre-ordered them. And that will make the people who pre-ordered happy. But it will make all the people who wanted to buy it in the store unhappy. So we've got a problem. On top of that, the reputation that the company has with the friendly local game stores will go down if they don't ship their stuff as soon as possible. And that, of course, finances is wanting a return on those pre-orders as quickly as possible to give back to the investors. There's also a potential legal issue because it's all like, well, people paid for a product, but that's, I think, a bit nuanced. You don't really get sued over pre-orders this much. But the PR is looking at a potential disaster here. So logistics can ship half the product and make half the community happy. And at the same time, who do they make happy? Do they make the people who ordered the pre-orders happy? Or do they make the stores, the people who buy them in the stores happy? Because after all, some of the people who pre-ordered could just buy them in the shop. So then in the end, logistics decides to ship to the friendly local game stores instead of shipping to the pre-order people. Which makes them very upset. But the people who can buy it in the game stores are, for the most part, happy. However, word spreads in the community about essentially the pre-order people getting ripped off, and now everyone is generally just sad, even the people who bought the product in the store. And PR has to try and fix this. But the problem is, if they didn't ship to the friendly local game stores, that would hurt reputation, and they might lose the license. Now, why is that important? Because licensed tabletop games like Star Trek Attack Wing and X-Wing, draw a little X-Wing, meow, are very hard to actually keep going. If you've noticed, if you actually like pay attention to like, oops, that's the wrong button. If you pay attention to just new releases of games, you'll notice like major franchises, Fallout, Star Trek, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, all those, they keep making new games. And these games don't have a long shelf life. Now, X-Wing, in order to keep going, they released the good ships first, then they released the bad ships, but gave them a power creep bonus to make people buy them. And then they made second edition to expand and keep pumping up products and resell stuff. But eventually they kind of ran out of stuff to make, and X-Wing's done. Star Trek Attack Wing has a much bigger universe to play with. And it has a very interesting sort of power creep situation. And I'm going to do the unthinkable here and defend power creep. Now, how did I do this before? I made this video once and then I redid it right now. Shoot, how on earth did I defend power creep? Right, I remember now. So you have a bunch of products released. Time goes by. Eventually, certain strategies become really useful. And an aspect of game balance a lot of people forget about is rarity is part of game balance. The company can afford to release 25 prize ships that are absolutely broken and powerful if they know there'll only ever be 25 of those. If you're playing on Tabletop Simulator, that's an unofficial way to play. And the rarity factor of game balance gets thrown out the window. Meaning, Tabletop Simulator is probably a little less balanced in some ways. So keep that in mind. Now, let's say you got all these old products, and some of these ones become, like, super good. And anyone who owns these products starts dominating the playing field. What they can do is the company can release new products that are already out the gate just as good as the old ones. And maybe they can take some of these rares that have made their way into tournaments and remake them as well. But ship them in larger quantities, so now everyone's kind of on this level playing field. Wow, that's not level at all. But it levels the playing field. The other thing it means, though, is that they don't need to make a second edition. And a second edition would probably be disastrous, because everyone would have to buy everything over again. As is, you only have to buy things over again if you want to. It's optional. You aren't forced to. If there's one thing consumers don't like doing, it's being forced to do something. We like to have the option to, like, okay, here's an example, right? That independent faction pack that came out, from what I heard, absolutely broken. And it has some cards I've wanted them to make for years. But I didn't really have the money to spend on another pack, and I decided I wouldn't buy it. That puts me at a major disadvantage in, like, tournament games, unless I'm playing on TTS. And frankly, we don't have tournaments where I live, so yeah, it doesn't matter. But I had the option as a consumer to not buy that. If there was a second edition and they said you had to rebuy everything in order to play the game at all, even at a casual level, that would be bad. It would be bad. It didn't go over all that well for X-Wing. It will definitely not go well for STAW. What might work, though, is, this is an idea I've had. I think they should make, perhaps, a second edition, like, not a second edition, but a competitive edition rulebook. Maybe not go full Games Workshop and release whole new books every few years, but like a definitive separation in the game between the competitive and the casual. But that's that's not necessarily what we're here to talk about. My point is, power creep does have a purpose from a financial, like, corporate point of view. It helps keep the game alive. We would have problems with people coming up with broken ideas anyway. We have a very creative group of players, and we would find ways to break the game very quickly. And new products, selling the new products, making them better with power creep, both encourages those to be purchased and can reintroduce some degree of balance to the game. Is it a perfect system? No. Is it a system that is most likely going to stop the game from being discontinued? Yes. So yeah, I guess to recap. Game companies are complicated. They've got a difficult job to do. We can speculate, because that's what all this is here. This is speculation. I'm just speculating in their defense. Because, you know, I've thrown my tomatoes, as it were. I'm here to mop up some of that tomato juice and be like, you know what? We don't know what's going on there for sure, and things might get better. So yeah, that's my little talk about we should be kind sometimes. I mean, they're a company. You don't have to be kind to a company, but like, maybe don't raise your pitchforks all the time. Anyway, there we go. I'm apparently showing you my OBS. Whatever. Bye!